Welcome to Take On the Universe, where we take on the universe to give back to the universe with love and gratitude. From Kirti Hermitage, a small, beautiful ashram on the banks of the river Ganga, on the outskirts of Rishikesh, we are in cognizance today with Ma Gyan Suvira, a spiritual guide, mentor, a teacher, a gifted yogini, astrologer, tarot reader, and a specialist of life force energies. Hi, Ma.
Hello. Hi, Sima. How are you?
I'm so grateful that you accepted to do this. You remember the time I had come to your place and we
Yeah.
had talked about, I remember it was cold, it was January, and you had told
Yes.
me a lot about soulmates and past life and regression and shamanism. You remember?
Yeah. So, it's a very intriguing topic and a very interesting because, most of the world is living in the present times, and they believe in their presence as this individual or as this body, and they can't think beyond how much ever stories you read and books you read. You're so kind of in the grip of Maya, and you believe this life to be your real life, and beyond this life and before this life is not something that you need to believe in 100%. Also, most of the people are on a evolving kind of a stage. They are not yet evolved enough to have that insight, that okay, let me not believe in the past life, and let me not believe in life after death. But do I have reasons enough? Do I have all the answers to all my questions? They all the questions lie unanswered as to why am I different from my brother or sister, or why somebody is so different, or why somebody has to go through so much of pain, or somebody has to have so much of comfort, etc. What is the deciding factor? What is the deciding factor in this universe that a person should undergo a particular script? Where is this script coming from? Who is deciding on who should go through what? So the answers to a million questions, lie in the theory of cause and effect. And the theory of cause and effect, not just pertaining to this life, but right from the birth. I mean, a newborn child undergoes so many. I mean, all newborn children don't undergo the same kind of comfort or the same kind of upbringing or the same kind of parents. Or so that means when the child is born itself, there is a discriminating factor somewhere. There is a factor somewhere where which is deciding that the child has to go through comforts or pain or whatever story he has to undergo. That means he's already carrying a story or a blueprint. So what is the deciding factor that who is going to have a comfortable blueprint and who's going to have an uncomfortable blueprint? And why such a discrimination for a child? From one child to another, all children are all godly. So why should somebody go through pain, and why should somebody go? So when you keep digging more and more inside, going deeper and deeper into this inquiry, one comes to a understanding that there is a factor or there is a theory which is far beyond our understanding, and it's far more deeper, far more wider, and far more. There's certitude in that. There's a lot of certitude, and there's a lot of surety in the way it is processed. The whole thing is processed. So people like us, when we get gripped with these kind of questions, and we go into our inner inquiry and go into our inner journeys to understand the get the answers for, especially related to suffering. I mean, happiness is okay. We it's he's a very lucky man. He's very happy, or he's a very lucky man. He's very rich. So, but sadness, when it comes to sadness, then one really wants to know why is certain person going through so much in one lifetime. Why should somebody go through so much? So that inquiry then leads you to an ocean of wisdom and knowledge, especially in the Eastern tradition. All of the Eastern tradition talks about the karma theory, and there is life after death, and there is many lives before where you are on the present timeline, many lives, and each lifetime there is accumulation of good and bad. Every lifetime there's accumulation of good and bad. For many lifetimes it's all a very unconscious process. very unconscious process where people are in absolute ignorance, and they are not even aware of 100% aware of what they're doing, why they're doing. Also, when they come to a middle level of evolution, most of the people, as they're evolving, from, so there is this basic theory in India, in our Indian tradition, Vedic tradition, that we refer to as Sankhya philosophy. The
Sankhya.
Sankhya philosophy, yeah, Sankhya. Sankhya
Sankhya.
basically means like numbers. It's
Yes.
like a numeric
Okay.
philosophy.
Okay.
So this philosophy talks about the origin of the universe, and it talks about how the creation happened, and the two polarities of creation, feminine and the masculine, and then on the ladder of evolution, how a soul gets separated from the universal consciousness and begins its journey on the ladder of evolution from the stone kingdom onwards to the plant kingdom, then to the animal kingdom, and eventually comes into the human kingdom. So here already, by the time he reaches the human kingdom, he's already spent thousands of years. Okay, the soul, and when it arrives in the human kingdom, then you see all the faculties start developing. So at the very basal level, when a soul has arrived into the human life, and this journey is always going forward. It's always going upward.
Right.
Yeah, it
Right.
never goes downward. So
Yeah.
when they arrive at the human level,
Yeah.
they are very much like animals, and the instincts and the brain is not refined, and their senses are not refined, and there is some very basalness in their behavior, thinking. It's very animal like. So after taking life again and life again and life again, each life there is refinement of senses, refinement of psychology, brain, everything. So if the person starts understanding more and more about life, and widens the understanding. I mean, at that level, at a very basal level, the beings are not even aware of there are many countries in the world, or there are many there are universes beyond this universe, or the planetary system, the solar system. It's about inner growth. A
Yeah.
lot has to do with inner growth, because we do have a lot of people, so-called graduates in the cities also, who cannot comprehend how large the universe would be, or they have no so either the expansion of your brain cells into parameters, into dimensions.
So, is this hindered, by life itself, where we are conditioned to kind of study, work, marriage, and live life in that manner? Uh, is this conditioning that we have? Is this a hindrance? And secondly, you know, when there's some suffering, is that pain, suffering, or trauma a kind of nudge from up there that look, get back on the right path?
So it is a limitation, of course. The conditioning, what we call the social conditioning or the familial conditioning, it is definitely a big obstacle in growth. But then there are people, the evolved ones, pierce through, they break through these conditioning patterns, and they do their self-inquiry. You've seen many of us, who have broken through the traditional patterns, and crossed over the borders. So the quest is born only to the evolved ones. This is the bare fact. Unless there is a quest, you won't search. If there is a quest, then you'll search. So quest is born only to the evolved. Quest is not born to the unevolved yet. Yeah.
So that means humans are evolved, of course. Are they more or less evolved than, say, other living beings? Is there a level in evolution too? Are there levels of evolution?
Human beings are very evolved as it is, and beyond that. So, Adiguru Shankaracharya, in his book called Vivek Chudamani, he has written a very beautiful shloka. If you permit me, I will narrate that.
Please do.
And he's written a very beautiful. It's a few lines, and it explains the evolution of human beings within the parameters of human beings. It explains. He says, "Jantu nam narah janma durlabha matah, pumstvam tato viprata. Tasmat Vedika dharma marg parata vidvatvam asmat param. Atma anatma vivechanam swanubhavo brahmatmana sanstiti muktirno shatajanma koti sukritaihi punner vina labhyate. Now this is the evolution within the human. So first sentence is Jantu nam narajanma durlabha mataha. Among all the beings, to be born as a human being is a big blessing. Okay, so here itself it talks about the evolved status. You're born as a human, so you're evolved out of all the beings. Tasmat jantunam narah janma durlabha mata pumstvam tato viprata. To be born as a human being is another thing, and to have real humanness or manliness is another thing. So there are a lot of human beings born as human beings, but they're more like animals. To be really human is another thing. In the second sentence. Then the third step he says that Tasmat Vaidika Dharma Marga Parata Vidhvatvam Asmat Param. And to be born as a fine human being who understands, human values and all is also nice. But to be born in the Vedic Dharma, that means to be born here in the Eastern philosophy, in the Eastern, parameters, where you are understanding the Vedic philosophy, you're really blessed. And there are many people who are born in the Vedic philosophy. I mean, in India's population is huge. But then to be born in the Vedic philosophy and to understand the real purport of the Vedic philosophy is another thing.
Right.
So this is another level. Okay. Tasmat Vedika Dharma Marga Parata Vidvatvam means to understand this philosophy is the next level. Right. Yeah, is the next level. Yeah. Vidvatvam Aswatma. Atma Anatma Vivechanam. Now, there are many people who are dharmic. They keep reading Ramcharitmanas and this and that and do bhajan, kirtan, satsang, everything. But how many of them understand the difference between Atma and Anatma? That means how many of them understand the difference between the real self and the non-real self? Very few people, so that's another level of evolution. Atma, Anatma, Vivechanam. They are able to discriminate. Vivechana kar sakte hain. They are able to discriminate. Atma, Anatma, Vivechana. Swanubhava. Acha, ye Atma, Anatma ke Vivechan karne wale bhi bahut hain. There are many people who can do this. They keep talking intellectually about spiritualism, spirituality all the time. And they discuss and there's so many of them, they keep talking about consciousness and very abstract, everything going abstract. How many of these people who discuss all this have a anubhav, have a swanubhav, have a experience. Personal experience? Very few. So the next level of this evolution is not only knowing the difference between anatma and atma, but also to have a swanubhava brahmatmana sanstitihi, to experience the Brahman within. Wow. How many of them have? Yeah. So this is another level of evolution. And then muktirno shatajanma kote sukretehi punner vina labhyate. So he says that when a man actually experiences Brahman within, he gets this deep desire to be liberated from this cycle because the soul is awakened. And the soul now doesn't want to participate in all this birth and rebirth and all this again and again, because he understands it's all crap. He wants to. So muktirno shatajanma koti, after living 1,000 lives of ignorance, or after living 1,000 lives जिसमें पुण्य जमा करके आते हैं, you keep on accumulating good deeds, only then one can get this hook or this deep thirst or desire or this hunger for being liberated. That is the highest level of the evolution, he says. We have a system of learning in India, at least, and in many of the Eastern countries, Asian countries, many of the Asian, including China, Japan, we have system where we say the Shruti Vakya. We take it to be the last word. Shruti Vakya is the words coming from the Vedic literature. Vedas were all Shruti Vakya. They were heard and written. They were not, they're not Smriti Vakya. Smriti Vakya is when something comes from a memory, or when you write a story book, it's Smriti Vakya, because you are utilizing your brain, putting things together, and then, conceptualizing things and writing them into words, making a story. That is Smriti Vakya. But Shruti Vakya is as it is written, as heard, downloaded. Okay, so Vedas are all Shruti Vakya. So हमारे यहाँ पद्धति है that when something is written in the Vedas, we take it to be the last word, because it's Shruti Vakya. There is no need for scientific introspection or inferences, or taking it to the laboratory is not essential. We take it as a last word. Nevertheless, people who come into the process of inquiry, they do go into inquiry, and they do go into a seeking of experience. I want to experience, correct, so I I take the word what is written. Undoubtedly, I take it because it is written by a rishi and
Right.
it's a Shruti Vakya. I take it as the last word, but yet I want to experience. So I go further and I, immerse myself completely, surrender myself completely into the process of inquiry, and the truth is revealed. The truth is revealed for any and every sincere seeker. Truth is revealed. Truth reveals itself, because your own resolution and your own resolve and your own commitment towards the inquiry, itself pleases consciousness and it reveals itself. That's the fact, and that's what our teachers have said, and that's what we follow.
So then, karma. I mean, what is the proof? What is karma, and what about these akashic records?
So, the accumulation of karmas is like a bean bag. It's like a bean bag. And I put my hand into the bean bag and pick up a few beans, okay, for one life. So some of these beans are good, some of these beans are black, and some of these. So whatever the soul picks up from the big bean bag of karmas, the soul picks up a handful of them to experience in this life. And so those karmas are experienced. Good karmas are experienced as blessings, and bad karmas are experienced as sufferings or sicknesses or troubles or whatever, like that. And because one lifetime is not too long a time for a soul, uh, from our individual earthly perspective, when we are earth centric, then a lifetime appears to be very long. 100 years or 80 years appears to be very long. But from the dimension beyond the time, beyond the earthly time, at that dimension, these 80 years or these 100 years we talk of human life is just like a blink of an eye.
Right.
So in that dimension, time is a different value completely. Okay. So there the lifetime is just a blink of eye. So it's for soul, it doesn't matter. For the soul, it doesn't matter what kind of experiences you are picking up. And because within a blink of an eye, that lifetime is over and another lifetime is there. And so whatever beings it had picked up in this life, they either get exhausted, they get over because the person has lived those karmas, or they get transformed, or they get accumulated, not experienced yet. So it gets passed on to the next life, and then the person is born again. It's a carry forward. There is a continuity. There isn't a gap. There's a continuity in the soul. And by default, the system has been designed in such a way that when one life is over, in the second life, I mean the last life, it is erased from the conscious mind. It is erased, so the person does not remember. He's born a child and he grows up with another fresh conditioning of a new family, a new parent, and everything, and in his new name and his new body and everything new. So he experiences that life in a fresh way, and then yeah.
So, tell me, what about people who kind of remember their past lives, or there are incidents, there are stories we read that so and so, remembered his past life, his relatives, how he passed away, or what he did. And in India, we also say, for 40 days after the child is born, he's still living in his past life, or even later on for a certain number of years. This was part 1 of Ma Gyan's conversation with us. What are your thoughts on the subject? Leave a comment in the comment section. You can come on board our channel and share your experiences too. Email us at takeontheuniverse@gmail.com.